Welcome to lesson 3 using the SDK and Eclipse IDE. So in this lesson we'll be highlighting the steps needed to code and compile and deploy a new piece of code. Without looking into the detail of an example, we'll just show you the skeleton, the process that you need to follow. In order to do that, let us look at our environment. I'm opening up the environment now. You see that I have my Eclipse open, and I'm going to open up the Java folder, and within the package CM domain config tools, I'm going to create a new program. All new classes I start for customizations with CM, so that they will not be confused with any base classes. And I'm going to click on new, and we have within the Eclipse a plug-on for an extension that uses different wizards for the framework. So under Other, there is something called Oracle Utilities, and I'm able to choose a customization and choose any one of these type of custom programs. And just for the sake of it, I'm going to use algorithm implementation and show you how this works. The wizard brings up, you fill in the name that you want to fill in, and I'm going to just use a test one. And if it's for an algorithm, for a plugin, I just end it with algorithm comp impl. And I now have to choose a interface for my algorithm. So I'm going to, the wizard brings up lists of the algorithms, and I'm going to actually do, let's say, an exit algorithm. And if I click on the finish, the wizard creates the structure, the interface that I need to create. And we have now, if we have a look in more detail, we have the class CM test, extends a class which has an error over here, and it implements a interface of the algorithm spot. So this algorithm spot here is the algorithm spot for for an exit program, and you see you can actually always access the Java docs for more information about that. The reason why we actually have an error here is that we have an extension, a class which has not been created yet. Right? The superclass has not been created, and in order to create that, there are many generated classes that need to be done, and the framework creates for you. And that is done by running a program called generate artifacts, which is found over here. If I click that and I run that, we'll see what happens after this program. It will look at all our custom code, and it create all the different types of generated classes that are needed to support this particular custom code. And it will be placed, when it's completed, into this directory called gen. Okay, and underneath gen we have the same structure. We have since we're working on the domain config tools, we should see many of the generated classes placed in this particular package. The same package underneath this particular directory here. So after this program runs, we hopefully will create this particular generated class. So it takes a few minutes because it actually looks at all the code and runs all the needed code that needs to be generated. So now when it says done, it's complete. Now it still shows that this class doesn't exist, and the reason is that even though we've generated the classes, it hasn't been compiled. So we need to hit F5 on the root, and once that's done, we should see that we have a generated class over here, which is now being created for us. So if I look under the generated now, and I see that I have two classes that have been generated for me. The generated class here, this has been created by the artifact generator, and also this class as well has been created for me. Okay, so these are all support classes that need to be created, and whenever we create new custom code, we're always going to be running the artifact generator. Afterwards, if I continue coding, I'm not going to be describing this now, I would actually write my custom code somewhere within this class. And once it's completed and I have done some testing on it, and that's done by running some test classes in the test directory using JUnit, which we will describe at the end of this course of how to create test classes. We create new test classes which can use for debugging or for running directly the code. One can actually then deploy the code into the application. In order to do that, you bring down this particular apps instance because you can't deploy when it's up and running, and you will run the deploy CM. And deploy CM basically updates the application. So I close now the app, and if I now run my deploy, it runs another program and it's taking my CM jar and creating the update service EAR and updating the EAR, and that's actually the program, the service which runs all the Java classes for the application. It takes a little time or so until that's updated. And once it's complete, you can then start your application again, and then your updated code will be available on your, see here it's now been successful, has been built, and you can start the application again, and the new code is available. Sometimes I've shown you that we use wizards. Sometimes the wizards, what they have actually created is this type of what's called an annotation. And we have different types of annotation which are used by the artifact generator to create those generated classes. So, for example, I have over here a piece of code, another example of an algorithm component. If I look at, for example, an entity, which we will be looking at, like we see that a business entity has many more things related to an annotation. Some of these annotations can be added in through the wizards directly, and some of them perhaps are a little difficult to use, and often, instead of actually using a wizard, we use existing code and take a template from an existing piece of code and copy it. And this introduces me to the importance of using the app viewer within the application to see any even base code. So I have the application open, and this actually is the application which was running before. And I can look at the app viewer, and within the app viewer you can actually see the custom code. You can see all the different classes, and in many cases you can actually see the actual code itself. And able to see the code itself, you're able to see. So if I click on over here, I can actually see the code itself. And I can actually go through it and look at it, and I can even see the annotation that is necessary. In this case, a very simple one, but if I need to copy or to refer to some other type of example, it's very accessible here through the application viewer.